Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Let's continue the study of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's start off with the intentions for seeking knowledge and teaching. I intend to seek knowledge and to teach to benefit myself and to benefit others, to remind myself and to remind others, to profit myself and to profit others, to urge adherence to the book of Allah and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to invite to guidance and to guide to that which is good, seeking the face of Allah, His pleasure, His closeness, and His reward subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's continue on with our Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم نور بالقرآن بصري واشرح به صدري وأطلق به لساني واستعمل به بدني وقوي به جناني وأسرع به فهمي بحولك وقوتك فإنه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بك يا أرحم الراحمين والصلاة على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بفضل سبحانك ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الحمد لله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي الحمد لله الحمد لله. We are at Surah ghashiyah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We did only 3 verses. Yes, last lesson. It is our very short verses. Introduction to Surah ghashiyah. Allah asked if the news of the overwhelming calamity has come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hal ataka hadithul ghashiyah. A story of the ghashiyah. Some days on that day will be downcast. They will be humbled, right, because of the wrong that they have done. Laboring, toiling, they were working very hard on earth, they were doing all kinds of things, but it did not benefit them in the next world. Right, we continue on to the next verse. Tasla naran hamiyah. All right, we see a ta here. Root word is salaya. This one means to roast or to burn. The ta refers to the wujuh. Wujuh are faces. So the faces is considered as a single female entity. So this ta refers to a feminine ta. Right? So it's tasla naran hamiyah. So nar is fire, hamiyah is blazing. So that's a descriptive phrase there. So we have blazing fire. Tasla naran hamiyah. Entering. So the word here is entering. Right, but you'll see different other translations of that. They will suffer the heat of the blazing fire. So here again, the word they is being used, although the ta is not a they, right? As we can see, the ta actually refers to the faces of those people, and the faces will suffer the heat of the blazing fire. Abari say roasting at a scorching fire. So we have that word again, roasting. So there are differences of translation by the different translators. Tasla naran hamiyah. Allah described tasla throwing themselves the greatest humiliation, the ta as a prefix, tasla, feminine because wujuh, faces is a broken plural. Jam'a Takathir. All right, that's explanation which I have given a little bit there. Ta refers to faces being thrown into fire. Normally, people would guard their faces against fire. These people would throw their own selves face first into the fire. So there's a reality of people who are not aware, who does not believe in the next world, who live life as if there is no next world. They just work hard, work and work and work for this world, but never for the next world. And so, and of course, working is nothing wrong with working if your work is directed towards the intention is to seek Allah's pleasure, but here is working without that, as of course committing sins along the way and disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence, they throw themselves into the hamiyah. Hamiyah to prevent something from harming you. Some form of protecting fire. So the desert sun, hamatu shams, the sun becomes scorching hot. A scorching fire that prevents something. That what would it prevent? It prevents skin from burning off. It prevents you from resting, having breaks from your skin burning off, so the pain lasts. So that's the translation. That's the explanation of the use of the word hamiyah. Right, you are prevented from running away, you're prevented from going anywhere. It catches you, and that's what it is. Although it originally means to prevent something from harming you, but eventually it ends up in preventing you from releasing yourself from harm. So faces are being described: emotions, expressions, dignity, anger. So faces are used because in faces we see our emotions. We can't hide our emotions: disappointment, sadness, feeling of rejection, all are shown by the expressions on the face. And the face, of course, represents your dignity. You lose face, right? Anger shown on your face. Arrogance is shown on your face. Fear shown on the face. Humility shown on the faces. So all these are seen from the face. And the face is the one that is burnt because it is a face of arrogance, it's a face of anger, it's a face of frustration, it's a face of all kinds of things. Tusqa min aynin aniyah. Tusqa from the word sakaya, which is the meaning to water, to give water. The tusqa is passive, right? The tu referring to again the female entity of the face, made to drink, min from aynin aniyah. Aynin is spring, aniyah is boiling, a boiling spring. Tusqa min aynin aniyah, made to drink from a boiling spring. Tusqa min aynin aniyah. Tusqa, literally to give in the mouth. The mouth is open and liquid is poured through, used for animals and humans, forced to drink. Tasqa is a different qira'ah. They themselves will go to drink the water out of extreme thirst, which means that there are different ways of reciting this. We need to understand that initially there was no harakat. That means there's no u, there's no a, there's no e in the Arabic writing. So people would read it as they think fits. So if they read it as tasqa, then it means that they themselves would go to drink this boiling water. Ayn used for beautiful things. A water spring gushes out with water is beautiful. I mean, a spring is beautiful. Ayn usually has a very positive meaning, but Allah describes the ayn with the word aniyah, which means continuously acting. And aniyah is ism fa'il, which means an ism which continues on and on and on. In this context, when you have put water on the heat and the time is about to reach boiling point, that is called aniyah. That means it continuously boils and boils and boils and boils. Once it reaches boiling point, it will continue to boil at the 100 degrees C, as we know. Some which is boiling and seething, so that's the meaning of aniyah. So this spring gushes out when the heat has reached its peak just before boiling point, and they are made to open their mouth and drink it like animals to stop. Two coverings in al-ghashiyah, their faces covered in fire, covered in boiling water. So this is how it is, right, being described. to remind people of the tragedy of disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَيْسَ لَهُمْ طَعَامٌ إِلَّا مِنْ ضَرِيعٍ. Laisa is not lahum for them. That means brought forth, especially for them. Ta'am is food. Ta'amun illa min dari'. Illa except min is from or of. Dari' is a thorny plant. Laisa lahum ta'amun illa min dari'. They shall have no food but of thorns. Laisa, to not have, refers to the immediate present tense. And laisa, they're not going to have it. This is used to show Allah's extreme anger at those who prefer this life over the hereafter. That means they live life for this world and nothing but the world. They never think of the consequences of their actions in the life of this world. They use all the faculties and facilities that they are blessed with, but they forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are not grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they do things to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are being asked to imagine themselves being already there. Laisa gives that impression, that understanding that they're already there. Laisa lahum brought forward, right? Taqdeem, to show specific isolation, that means especially them, that they will not be any food for them at all, but they'll be food for others out of Allah's mercy. Laisa lahum ta'am, not for them food. So that means you're going to have no food. Others will have food, but this group of people, they will not get food. Dari', raw seaweed. Animals don't like to eat. It's a horrible thing, basically. Dari' also means a thorny plant in the Arab lands called shibrik. It has very sharp, long thorns, poisonous, itchy, causes animals to bleed. No animal but the camel eats it. So camel has got a special, I suppose, has been created by Allah with special abilities to manage the thorns. But they are thorny plants, and the camel has thick lips, so it can eat from this, and it can even survive independently in the desert compared to other cattle and other animals of breeding animals, bad animals. All right, so that's how it is, the camels. But that's what it is. It's a very thorny plant. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu has said that it is a tree of fire fit for hell, and if it were in this world, it would burn the earth and all the things on it. But there is a narration from Rasulullah which says, Dari is something in hell. It is like thorns, more bitter than aloes, more fitted than the putrid corpse, and more burning than fire. Allah has named the thing Dari. That's what it is. Dari is a terrible thing, right? They will be fed with this horrible, horrible plants. 3 foods in hellfire. Zaqum, a fruit shaped like devil heads. If a drop of it was to be thrown on the earth, it would destroy all life forms. Ghislin, infection, pus from wounds. They'll be fed with pus, with blood, and all kinds of things. And Dari, most scholars consist of Zaqum and Ghislin. But Allah didn't say they would eat Dari. He said they will eat from Dari. From Dari, this indicates that they will go around looking for food out of hunger. Then they find this plant and have to go into it, and they are being poked with thorns, bleeding, etc., to find the food. Purpose of the sentence is not to say that they will not be fed with anything else except thorny bushes. The word la is used here as a severe exception to convey the above meaning. Dari should have belonged to the genre of edibles in any way. So it is not something that can be eaten. It's something that's horrible, right? It's something that is terrible. It's severe. It's a punishment, basically. It's not feeding. It's not food. When this is not so, the exception is only meant to convey the fact that when they find nothing to eat, they will, out of frustration, try to eat the thorny bushes available to them there. This negation also does not refute the fact that the other similar things would be present for the dwellers of hell, in which they would be compelled to eat. Thus, it is mentioned in another verse that these sinners will have to consume zaqum. The previous surah ended with a soft tone, Surah Al-A'la, as as mentioned in the Mushaf, Al-A'la. Then comes Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Al-A'la. Inna hadha la fi suhufi al-ula, suhufi Ibrahim wa Musa. بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا, rather they prefer the life of the world. Well, بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى, while the world is the akhirah is better and everlasting. إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. So they reminded from Ibrahim, from Musa. So the Arabs honored Ibrahim, the Jews honored Musa alayhi salam. Right, so this towards the end of Surah, end of Mecca life, Rasulullah's mission in Mecca, and the surahs are brought to Medina, when the Jews are also listening, right? And they have this reminder. But if we look at the sequence from the previous surah, which is our surah Dariyat, yeah, it is about those people again who are being reminded of the punishments that they will get if they disobey the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with examples from the previous prophets. But if these people aren't benefiting from soft and caring advice, then they need to be shouted to and threatened for their own benefit. So if these ayah make the disbeliever think of the punishment to come and make him correct his ways, this is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sometimes, at times, you want to encourage people. Some people, that different groups of you, some people are okay with carrots, but some people just need a stick. They will not move with carrots. The knowledge of punishments to come is a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So next time that this believer eats his food, he's going to think, I've got nothing to eat except dari. The present tense giving this effect. Some polytheists with hardened hearts have no fear. They say, oh, dari, that's not so bad. Our camels can eat it. Our camels get fat and healthy with it. Tusminu, they become fat and healthy. So they actually, those who are very hard-hearted, but very hardened in their hearts, they just don't want to accept the message from Rasulullah, the message of the Quran. They make fun of what is in the Quran. So they do not benefit from the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La yusminu wa la yughni min ju'. La, not yusminu. Yusminu, the ya here refers to the dari. Dari. The ya, it fattens. And the word samin is fat. Right? So la yusminu, not it fattens. It costs to be, it yusminu, it fattens. Wala yughni, and not it benefits. Ghani is to enrich. Min ju' from hunger. Ju' is hunger. Min is sort of jar. So ju'in is here. La yusminu, this is mudari rafa, and this is mudari rafa, but we can't even see because of la yughni min ju', which neither fatten nor avail against hunger. La yusminu wa la yughni min ju'. If you recall the previous mention of the hardened polytheists who say, oh, our camels use minnu from it, that means they are fattened by it, and they eat those fruits. It's not that bad after all. That's what they would just make fun of it. Right? So these are the mockers, and the mockers are the ones who didn't convert to Islam. La yusminu, it does not add to their fat. La yughni min ju', it will not relieve them from hunger. So they will keep eating these thorns without feeling full. Instead, they feel sick. The thorns tear their insides and does not nourish nor remove hunger. The use of food are two, to nurture the body and to satisfy the pangs of hunger. That's the reason why we eat, right? Yusmin means it benefits you in some kind of nutrition that it gives you. Nurture the body and, of course, to remove hunger. However, what will be served to the dwellers of hell will fulfill neither of these uses. They will have to go through the agony of only chewing and swallowing it. As I says, according to Al-Qifal, as quoted by Razi, this kind of hellish drink and food is a metonym for utter hopelessness and abasement. So he's looking at it in a way of showing that people are just feeling they don't have that in the hellfire. They are disgraced by such food and drink. Hopelessness. As regard the noun dari, which is said to be a bitter thorny plant in its dried state, Jauhari said this to be borne in mind that it's derived from the verb dara'a or dari'a, which signifies he or it become abject or abased. So another look at the word dari. and from its another opinion, right, it is again to be disgraced, to be abased. It is obvious that we in this world cannot fully comprehend the nature of such suffering in the hereafter. The description is made in order to give our perceptions the feeling of the greatest possible pain, which is produced by a combination of humiliation, weakness, failure, the scorching fire, drinking and bathing and boiling water and eating food unacceptable, even to camels, which are used to eating thorns when they travel in desert areas. So it gives you a very gory picture, but the reality of the next world is even worse than that. It has to be described, right, in terms of words that we are familiar with. And so we end up, so we need to imagine further, right? The picture is not really that as bad as it would be, but this is bad enough for us not to want to go to hellfire. So the sour thorn, however, is dry and gives no nourishment. From all these aspects, we get a sense of the ultimate affliction. But the affliction of hereafter is nevertheless greater. Its true nature is incomprehensible except to those who will actually experience it. May Allah protect us from such terrible destination. May Allah never count us among them. Let's recite through the hellfire. The whole thing from ghashiyah. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية. So بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية. وجوه يومئذ خاشعة عاملة ناصبة تصلى نارا حامية تسقى من عين آنية ليس لهم طعام إلا من ضريع لا يسمن ولا يغني من جوع. Continue to the next step. La is vain talk or useless talk. La is a root word. We have mawdu'ah. From the wada'a is to put. Wada'a, actually, there's an I in here. Put in place. Mawdu'ah is a verb. Sorry, it's an ism, right? Because of the tanween here. So this is also ism, right? This is put in place, things which are put in place. Namariq are cushions. Masafufa, lined up. Masafufa from the word safafa, soft. When you are in soft, you are in line up. So masafufa, things which are lined up, things lined up, things put in place. So namariq is of course a noun also because it's ism, but it is of a different structure. Where the there's no tanwin here. We'll look at it later on. Zarabiyu. Zarabi, carpets. Carpets. Mabathutha, from the word bathatha, to spread out. Batha is to like disperse, right? So mabathutha, things which are spread out. All right, let's revise the word. Laghiya, vain talk. Mawdu'ah, things which are put in place. Namariq, cushions. Masafufa, things which are lined up. Zarabiyu, carpets. Mabthutha, spread out. Wujuhu yawma idhin na'imah, faces that day joyful. Na'im is in a state of joy, in a state of being favored, and na'imah. So wujuhu yawma idhin na'imah. So na'imah describes the wujuh, both are having the same dammatain, and yawma idhin is placed in the middle, right, to emphasize that day. Reminding of all of us that there's a day when we would be humiliated or elevated. So other faces, there's no other here, but understood here, on that day shall be happy. Na'imah, joyful. Wujuhu yawma idhin na'ima. Na'im literally means a face you make when you are given a gift. That's the meaning of na'im. Na'ima is some fa'il, that means continuously happy. The alif always tells us it is a continuous thing. Na'ima, no stress, relaxation, no signs of exhaustion on your face, full of joy. Joyful faces which beam bright with the comfort of bliss. Na'ima. Na'ima, also to be in a state of bliss. Yauma idhin is taqdim, that means brought forward, specifying that that day is in that day in na'imah. Right? The day itself is where the faces will be in na'imah. Li sa'iha radiyah. Li, with sa'i is to run, to strive. Diaha, they are referring to the faces, right? So it's a dia, right? Because it's a single entity. The faces are the one that are striving. Lisa'iha radiyah, well pleased. And those who are well pleased, radiyah, again the alif tells us continuously being a state of being well pleased. Radiyah, lisa'iha radiyah. Well pleased because of their striving. So we can see with their striving, well pleased. So that's rearrangement of sentence here, happening with the translation. Lisa'iha radiyah. Just now we had amilatun nasibah. Now lisa'iha radiyah. Because we are doing work which we know Allah is happy with, and we are also happy to do what Allah wants us to do. We strive hard, we work hard in this world, but in a state of being pleased. Being pleased with Allah and Allah pleased with us. We are continuously in a state of being pleased. Radiyah. Sa'i, fast-paced walk, rushing to finish a task that's due, and then sa'i, we our sa'i in Makkah, in Umrah, in Hajj. The sa'i, so sa'iha. Al-Alusi says, when these faces see the reward on this day for what they had done, they will wish they had done more. They had to force themselves to do work for the hereafter and struggle against themselves. Of course, there's a desire. The desire works against ourselves. I was listening to a beautiful talk in Malay of a lady who passed away very easily. And when the daughter was asked what's her good deed, and the daughter says that she actually reads the Quran, finished the Quran 4 times in a month. And she struggles a lot against sleeping, against eating too much, again doing all things which are unnecessary. And she would remind her children about the things that they caught in their houses, on how they will be questioned for every single thing that they have in their houses. And she was a person who would gather the villagers from the Malaysian villagers who are not working, and taught them how to earn money by making some kind of pickle. And she would help them to raise funds and teach them how to manage their funds also. So she did a lot of good. She believes in benefiting others in this world, all for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She had a very easy death. So that was what prompted the speaker to mention about this lady. It's a struggle against themselves. And the more you struggle, the more you realize that Allah has blessed you that ability to fight against the various desires on earth, right? And move on life, living life for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who cleansed himself has attained true success. That is a success, that is a state of being pleased with yourself. Lisa'iha radiyah. And with their strivings, they are pleased because they see the fruits of their striving. And the fruits of this striving for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not only sin in the next world, but also in this world, because they have tranquility and happiness and joy. It's priceless, the things that they feel. That is why they move on, realizing that they are the chosen people who walk in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Use of li and not be. Li sa'iha, not be sa'iha. That's what this translator, that Mufassirin is identifying for us. Why is the li sa'iha radiyah use? Because instead of be sa'iha radiyah, which is the norm. So this is a normal way of seeing things. So this is why sometimes the Quran, most times the Quran actually astounds the Arabs. Arabs are very proficient in their language structure, the nuances, and the language genre has reached very high standards, and they see the Quran using their words not in the normal sense. So that actually amazes them. And that is why the Quran is considered as a mu'jizat during that time, because it causes them to be ajaza, that means to be incapacitated. They are so full of amazement that they are left speechless. And that's why some of them just cannot reject the Quran, because of the great ways in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala present ideas in the Quran. Bisa'iha radiya, which with its striving it is satisfied. Lisa'iha radiya, for its striving it is satisfied. So li is used to show happiness of believer at rewards of goodness for its striving, not by its striving, but not with its striving, but for its striving. The fact that it has been striving, it is very happy, right? Words of goodness. A portion to work for Allah's sake is a great joy. Allah honored them for being His obedient slaves. May Allah include us among the obedient slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In their worldly life, they were struggling really hard and gave their lives for Allah's pleasure. They sold their lives for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah has said in Surah At-Tawbah, right? They sold, Allah bought their lives and their property and with Jannah. The contrast of two people exhausting themselves on this final day, on this very day, the disbelievers' face will be humiliated despite exhaustion, still have to work hard, continuously working hard and hard and hard. But the next world, their faces will be humiliated. And the righteous believers will be bright-faced in ease, joy, and excitement. No need to work anymore because they are pleased with whatever they have strived for. Their condition is their faces are bright, their faces are full of joy, na'imah, for the strivings that they did. Here are faces bright with joy, animated with pleasure. They are well pleased with what they are given. They enjoy that splendid spiritual feeling of satisfaction with what they have done, as they sense Allah's pleasure with them. Nothing more we desire but to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see the gifts in the next world and also in this world. We are very, very blessed. We keep on being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no better feeling for a man than to be reassured of his own actions and to see the results reflected in Allah being pleased with him. Quran gives precedence to this kind of happiness over the joys of heaven. What it means is that this particular verse actually showed even before experiencing the joys of heaven, right? They are very, very, very much in a state of joyfulness, right? For the actions that they have done only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fi jannatin aliyah. He is in, so fi is sort of jar, jannah is in this jar state, and aliyah, ali is high, elevated, right? In elevated garden, this is one only, in a lofty garden, in an elevated garden, in a lofty garden. So they will be up high in special places, beautiful gardens, elevated. It means they have this greatness in the gardens. Fi jannatin aliyah. The garden on top of a hill, the most beautiful part. The people of hell should be thrown down. And the people of paradise will be in high gardens. Contrast that these believers are being punished in fire, fed harmful food, forced to drink boiling water, torture upon torture upon torture. The believers, on the other hand, will have pleasure upon pleasure upon pleasure as they enter Jannah, which is raised high up, which is elevated. Elevated means they have a high standing, inshallah. Arabs cherished gardens which were situated in lofty places and which were encircled by tall date palms so that they appear elegant from far off and are also protected from calamities such as scorching winds and floods. So of course, not only Arabs, everybody like high places, beautiful scenery, gardens. And then of course, Jannah is a special kind of garden, which is very lush garden, right? From the root Janana, which means to be hidden. That means a soil hidden from sight, which means it's full, is covered with plants. Right? Beautiful garden. لا تسمعوا فيها لاغية. Not tasma'u, they hear. Again, the ta referring to the faces. Faces represents human being here. Fiha, in it referring to the Jannah. Laghiya, useful talk. Useless talk. Sorry, laghiya, useless talk. Not they hear, useless talk. So useless talk is the thing that's been heard. So useless talk is a nasab. La tasma'u fiha laghiya, wherein you shall not hear a vain talk. Okay, right here, there are a few. I went through a few translations. Right, most of them put a they there, the ta referring to the faces, but being a singular entity. However, but because the faces are called wujuh. Wujuh in Arabic language considered as mentioned jama' taksir, which is considered as a single entity female. But one specific, I think it's Shakir, use it as a you here. So we can see there are differences of opinion on the ta function here, right? So tasma'u is mudari, is rafa, but the ta is sin as one translated as a you, and it means a single you that is talking, changing of a preposition, right, from the faces to you alone. All right, but there's only one translator. Most translators actually put a they here. La tasma'u fiha laghiya. Laghiya speech is wordless, obnoxious, useless, wasting of time. People who have direction in life, people who are very focused in how they want to lead their lives, they would not go for movie talks or what they call talk shows and all those things. Maybe you have some benefit in it, but most of the time it's a lot of waste of time. TVs and everything. Hamza Yusuf was mentioning his parents never watch TV because they don't see much benefit in sitting down, listening to stories or watching whatever, right? They have things to do basically that pulls them away from the TV. Speech which humans might say without thinking. Nonsense speech, just sitting down, chit-chatting, and after that you forget why is it that you talk about also. And in this world, people of high status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, high stations, they find it very troubling when they are put into places where people just doesn't talk any sense, right? The conversations doesn't improve themselves, doesn't develop themselves, doesn't bring them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they get very, very upset with such states. And so this is a gift for them, right? To be away from such nonsense talks, nonsense speech. This expression creates a sense of calmness, peace, reassurance, love, satisfaction, and pleasant discourse between parents, between friends. So the friends in Jannah, right, because conversations, right, are mentioned here. So there must be people around to have conversations. And these conversations will not be useless conversations. They are conversations of happiness, of joy, of gratitude, of love, pleasant discourses. This provides a feeling of raising oneself above any vain conversation. This is in itself a kind of joy and happiness which is better felt when one remembers the first life and its increasing polemics, disputes, contentions, quarrels, sin, and alcohol. Lots of things which just disturb the mind, stresses the system, and all kinds of things which are so negative. Right? Lots of negative energy which causes us to move away, to get very upset at all the situations on earth. So when one remembers all this, one relaxes into complete calmness, total peace of mind, and a pleasant happiness generated by the Quranic expression where they hear no babble, no listing talk. The very words are endowed with a pleasant fragrance. They flow with gratifying rhythm. It also implies that as the believers turn away in this life from polemics and vain discourse, their way of life acquires a heavenly element, which means that those people who are aware that, sitting around just listening to just babble and things like that, or discussing about things which doesn't benefit us, then they have attained, right, a piece of the element of Jannah. Right? You don't want to get involved with all these talks, all kinds of things being talked about, which just doesn't benefit anyone. The environment in Mecca was rather depressing with much useless talk. When people have got no direction in life, they end up saying things, doing things, which is saying things and conversations which are not, just doesn't bring them anywhere. This upsets believers. The promise of no useless talk is something that Muslims would look forward to. Fiha ainun jariyah. Fiha, in it, ainun, a spring, jariyah, flowing. The word jariyah, ainun, we know it's ainun. This is here. It here refers to the Jannah. Fiha ainun jariyah. We have amal jariyah. Amal jariyah means deeds that flow. Why does it flow? Because even after you pass on, you get rewards for the deeds that you do. As mentioned, amal jariyahs would be where we give sadaqah, which is being used. Like, for example, you build a mosque, as amal jariyah, because the mosque is going to be used again and again, if after you pass on, right? You teach people good lessons, that is also amal jariyah. We bring up good children, that is also amal jariyah. You make wells, that's also amal jariyah. That's what jariyah is, to flow. Fiha ainun jariyah. You are in a high garden with water springs flowing on top of a waterfall. Rasulullah SAW said, Anharul jannati tafajjaru min tahti tilali aw min tahti jibalil misk. The rivers of paradise spring forth from beneath hills or mountains of musk. So the water smells beautiful. It's not like dirty water. It's clean, beautiful smelling water. That's the description given to us. But of course, Rasulullah has mentioned that the description that is given is nothing. It's just a way of making you understand. But out there, inshallah, in the next world, the Jannah is just more than what is described. Just like hell is more than what was described. Jariyah, flowing, fresh, clean water. After a portrayal of the blissful atmosphere of paradise, this verse portrays its picture sights, calming environment. So first, the emotions are appealed to, and then the surroundings are being mentioned. The word fountain is singular in its Arabic text. Similar cases occur in the Quran, like Surah Zariyat. The indefinite singular form of ayn means some numerous other fountains. There's a use of the word here. Some commentators have said that since there is a spring in every castle in heaven belonging to the believers, which flows in every direction that they wish it to, so spring is mentioned in the singular form. But there are numerous indeed, and are useful for their beauty, different wholesome sweet water, and whenever the righteous wish to, they drink therefrom. So it's beautiful environment, right? Unimaginable. The description combines a sense of quenching thirst with beauty of movement and flow. Running water gives a sense of liveliness and youth. It is pleasant to the eye and the mind and touches the depths of human feeling. Fiha sururum marfu'ah. In it, guidance again, you've got surur, you've got thrones. Marfu'ah from the word rafa'. Rafa' is to be raised. Marfu'ah, raised, that means they are high thrones, right? You got guidance on top of a hill, and you are on thrones which are all raised. Therein are thrones raised high. Fiha sururum marfu'ah. Sururun, sarir, is a modern Arabic, is a bed. But in ancient Arabic, sarir is a couch. Most Arabs who are nomads sit on the floor. Too troublesome to carry couches around. But those who are very wealthy and live in forts at high beds and couches designed for themselves. And so that's what they are. So these are places of wealth, luxury. This bed is a sign of stability. In Jannah, Allah is offering us stability. They have mentioned that whenever the friend of Allah wishes to sit on these lofty thrones, they will lower themselves for him, and he will be raised up too high to the positions of the thrones. Marfu'ah, someone did it for you. It's Al-Alusi says, so the sitter can sit back and see everything he owns. The garden you live in is high, with an amazing view, with a higher seat to see that view. No more work, just relax. Ibn Abbas says that these high thrones are set in such a way that when the righteous are going to sit on them, they lower themselves in humility for their owners, and then when the righteous sit down, the thrones rise again. We mentioned that, right, in a different form. All right, so that is how we are with thrones raised. وَأَكْوَابٌ مَوْضُوعَةٌ, and cups already placed. Placed. Mawdu'ah, things which are placed already. Akwab are cups. And drinking cups ready placed. So akwabum mawdu'ah. Compare this to the hellfire, where they are forced to drink water, boiling water. Now you have cups. When you have cups around, that means you are being entertained. Yeah, you are being served with beautiful cups, and the cups are ready there for you to enjoy yourself. وَأَكْوَابٌ مَوْضُوعَةٌ. Akwab, kaub is a big cup with no handle. It is slender from the middle neck and wide from the top. So like a wine glass. That's what they say. That's how they describe it. They call it a cup. It holds exotic drinks. That's why people have this kind of cups and have their wine and their champagne in it. Mawdu'ah, from the wadda, to place down, to lower it. So a servant lowers the glass and puts it down in front of you. Tudda means the glass will be placed down once, but mawdu'ah means when you drink from it, another drink is placed. It means you're always being served with exotic drinks, special cups, continuous supply of drink. Wa akwabum mawdu'ah. Wa namariqu masfufa, and cushions set in rows. Namariqa, cushions. Masfufa, set in rows, and cushions set in rows. In a row. Masfufa. Wa namariqu masfufa. Namariq is the plural form of numruqah, a pillow, a soft pad for sitting or kneeling on or reclining against, usually for relaxing. You have cushions to relax on. So a small pillow you might put on your high couch bed to feel even more comfortable. People like some cushions all over, beautifully decorated cushions, like on your couch, on your sofas and things like that. So this gives the a luxurious element to it, a high class element to it. These are prepared for dwellers to recline and relax. وَنَمَارِقُ مَصْفُوفَةٌ, and masfufa, set in rows, denotes that there are numerous cushions arranged in order for some people to have a meeting in which they hear no vain talk. But the words are about the endless blessings of Allah and being saved from both the troubles and the struggles of the physical world and the punishments of the spiritual. Basking in the delights that Allah has blessed them, enjoying and being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are people who are always grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world, right? Their gratitude causes them to move on, to be true slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is so enjoyable and excellent that nothing can match it. وَزَرَابِيُّ مَبْثُوثَةٌ. Zarabi, exotic rugs. Wazarabi. So zarab is the word here, the wa is n. Wazarabi mabthutha, spread far and what beautiful rugs, carpets spread out. Wazarabi mabthutha. Zarabi is a plural from azariba, which means piled large carpets of high quality that are both comfortable with a high and cost. It's really elegant carpets, really expensive carpets. Some people, they buy expensive carpets and they hang it on the wall, not on the floor. It is clear that there are also other facilities equal to what is mentioned above, which are a means of enjoyment and comfort of which only a few examples are given. Right? So yeah, right. So it was trying to describe this great joys, this great gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But as mentioned by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is described is nothing compared to the real thing. But it's what you have going to have in the next world is much more great. Indicating there are numerous of them in heaven, Mabuthutha, spread as far as the eye can see. Cushions and rugs as far as you can see in your big living room. The sitting places of the dwellers of paradise will have carpets arranged in a consecutive sequence, and they will be adjacent to one another. There will be no empty space. They serve the dual purpose of decoration and comfort. All these luxuries are similar to the luxuries enjoyed in this life, but these are mentioned merely to make them comprehensible to us, although it is mentioned in the terms of the world that we know, but it is just there to make us understand, but described in very, very beautiful ways to add on, to enhance the imagination of how the environment will be like in the gardens and the palaces. The true nature and the nature of the enjoyment are left for the experience of those whom Allah has rewarded. All right, we recite on those in Jannah. Wujuhu yawma idhin na'imah lisa'yiha radiyah fi jannatin 'aliyah la tasma'u fiha laghiyah فيها عين جارية فيها سرر مرفوعة وأكواب موضوعة ونمارق مصفوفة وزرابي مبثوثة. Al-Ibl is a camel. We're going to next section of the surah. Al-Ibl is camel. And you see it is in its jar state. We'll see how it is. No sibat. We know this is al because of the al is ism. This is not this ism, it is mudari, fi'l madi. The ta at the end showing it's a female, nasaba. But there's a they there, so the ta here it is a plural entity here, which takes a female form. Sotihat, again, the ta there, female ta, fi'al madi, past tense. Right, root word is sataha, it is spread out. This is passive because of the u and the e there. This is also passive. U and e, they are fixed. It is spread out. Sotihat. It could be they also. We're going to look at the ta again, whether it represents a they or an it. Bi musaytirin. And musaytirin. All right, from what satara. Satara means to rule, control, take charge. All right, B is with. And musaytirin, because the ba is sort of jar, so you've got kasratain here. Iyabahum. Iyaba. Ayaba is to greeted. Hum is they. They are written. Iyabahum. All right, let's go back to the words. Al-Ibl, camels. No sibat, they are fixed. Sotihat, it is spread out. Bimusaytir, a controller, with a controller. Actually, by is a with here. With or in, with. We're going to put a with there. And iyabahum, they are written. All right, let's continue with the next section. Afala is a question. Why? Fa is then, la is not. Why they're not? Yanzuruna, they. Ya and the waw nun they. Nadara is look. They look. Ilal ibl, to the camel. So ila is surov, jar. That's why you have ibli in its jar state. Kaifa, how? Khuliqat. Khuliqat from the word khalaqa. Right, but now it's holy, so it becomes passive. It was created. Khalaqa is to create, or he created. Khuliqat, it was created. Afala yanzuruna ila al-ibli kayfa khuliqat. Will they not then not consider the camels, how they are created. So you can see that the word look, which is the normal word used as nadara translation, is given a considering here. Right? When you consider, when you look at something, you consider and you reflect. So they are being translated in that form, right? Yanzuruna. Do then they who deny resurrection never gaze at the clouds pregnant with water and observe how they are created? All right, now it seems that there are two meanings to the word ibl, right? One, consider it as camels, and the other one here, Asad saw it as clouds pregnant with water. That means heavy gray rain clouds. Right, we look at the translation and explanation later. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we forget afala. Afala yanzuru. Something wrong here. Right, it is inverted. That's how you do it on the internet, on the computer. Change its position. Afala yanzuruna ila al-ibli kayfa khuliqat. Now we come back to the earth, where Allah asks us to look around us and learn lessons and come to conclusion that there is a creator, and the creator does not create things for play. There's a reason for all the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبْلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. In this verse, we're going to use ibl as the camel first. General word for camel. The disbelievers would laugh and say that the camels can eat thorns, so they will be able to inhale too. So Allah says, aren't they looking carefully at the camel? How it was created. The camel is created in amazing ways. As we know, every animal is created to adapt to its environment, and the camel has got various characteristics which allow them to live in the desert. They are adapted to live in the desert. So Allah asks us to look at the camel and see how Allah created. Kaifa khuliqat, how it was created. Kaifa khuliqat, how it was created. Allah does not say Allah created, so they can focus on the creation. So Allah didn't say, look at the camel which Allah creates. Instead, Allah says, look at the camel, how it was created. So it is a use of passive tense, right? So that the focus is entirely on the creation of the camel and not on Allah who created the camel. If Allah says, look at the camel which Allah created, then the focus is on Allah. But Allah is saying, look at the camel, how it was created. So now you're going to look at the creation of the camel and focus on the creation of the camel. This is because they rejected Allah, so we don't put Allah's name. Never mind, you know Allah is your creator, but somehow you don't like it when the name of Allah is being mentioned here. And so just look at the camel. So why the camel? It is part of their life. They see how and what it is, how it moves, and knew how strong and resilient it is. It is well adapted to the harsh desert. The survival is tied to the camel. It offers transport, food, drink, and covering. Everything is there in the camel, right? Transport strong, looks at the hooves of the camel, especially suited to walk on the desert. Look at the color of the camel, because the camouflaged. Look at the cums on the camel, which people now, scientists say, stores fats, which is more essential for the camel. And then look at the eyelashes of the camel, beautiful eyelashes. Human beings, young ladies always like their long eyelashes, even put false eyelashes to make themselves look good. Camels have beautifully long eyelashes. Why? To protect the eyes from the sandstorms. Despite its size and strength, the ability to crush any human, a child can control it. The child can lead a whole pack of camels just by leading the first one behind him. It is loyal to its human being, and even when tired, it continues to do its work. Mahul narrates that Rasulullah said, rahmatullahu alayhi, the believers are gentle, easygoing, and lenient like the camel marked on the nose. Right? Marked on the nose, it means the camel is owned by someone. So when a believer realizes that he is a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he becomes gentle, he becomes easygoing, and he becomes lenient. If he is made to stand, it stands. If he is ordered to sit on a scorching rock, he sits thereon. So believers are obedient, right, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lessons from the camel. Allah's favors. Obedience to the master in any condition. Miracle of his design. That's the camel. Right, we're going to look at the camel, and you realize two things most important. Right, beautiful creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, amazing creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to allow it to adapt to the harsh desert environment, and also obedience to the master. Wa ila samai kaifa rufi'at. And then turn your attention to the sky. And two, that means look and ponder at the sky. Sama'i, of course we know it's an E because ila is huruf jar. Wa ila sama'i kaifa rufi'at. How it was raised. And the heaven, how it is reared aloft. Strange way of saying things now, but it's the way they say it in the olden days. How it was raised, that's what it is. Rufi'at from rafi' is to be raised. Now we turn our eyes to the sky of the earth, sama, one sky only. The Quran repeatedly directs man's reflective faculties to the skies, looking at the sky, right? In the daytime, look at the clouds, and different kinds of clouds coming up. Amazing clouds. Sometimes you really ponder over the shapes of the clouds. For those who have learned the names of the clouds, cirrus, cumulonimbus, and then you've got all kinds of strata, beautiful actually, and just amazing why they are in that structure. Desert people should be the first to undertake this, because in the desert, the sky is much richer and more inspiring, as if it has a unique existence. In Singapore, we hardly get to use that, to do that, but out in the desert, it's just so astounding, especially at night. With the many stars, the beautiful stars, and they are just wondered by the differences in stars. That is why when human beings, right, in the West, in America especially, introduce satellites into the skies, at night skies, the people of the desert were just wondering what happened. Because they are very familiar with the stars, and suddenly something odd appears. In the middle of the day, the sky is brilliant and beaming. In late afternoon, it's captivating and fascinating. Sunset, most charming and inspiring. Sunrise was a beautiful hue of the clouds around it. Beautiful. Wa ila samai kaifa rufi'at. It is being raised. Then as the night spreads its wings, the sky shows its sparkling stars and makes its friendly whispers. At sunrise, the sky comes alive again and becomes animating. And all this is certainly worth a good deal of reflection and contemplation. It was the greatness of the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our salat is wrapped, you can say wrapped around the various changes of the sky. First thing in the morning, we wake up and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before the sunrise. The sunrise is a majestic moment, a beautiful moment, but dawn is even more beautiful. Just before the sun comes out from the horizon, right, we feel the serenity of the morning, the wind, the air, right? When the sun when the dawn is when as mentioned in the Quran, right? At the horizon, you see the blackness of the night and the thin white, thin streak of light on the horizon. And it's described as the white thread and the dark thread. We can differentiate the white thread from the dark thread. It is dawn. Beautiful moment, and those who enjoy being awake at dawn, who understands the blessings of being with Allah at dawn. Beautiful moment of reflection and contemplation. And then again, I've mentioned this in the last lesson also about the prayer times, right? It follows the sun. Zohor is when the sun's from the very hot mid-noon sun, it slips. It's time for us to pray and rest for a while, and then move on to start work again at Asar time. A very busy time. Everybody's so busy trying to clear up things before night, before they go off out of office, right? So that's when you got to meet Allah again, telling ourselves that we have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't have trust in our own efforts. Stop all the work. Go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Asar, where the shadow is doubled. And then, of course, sunset, beautiful moment again, and darkness, Isha. You should consider how it was raised. It's talking about how it was raised, right? It seems Allah has always described the sky as a canopy. And the people around, when they were at that time, they looked at it as a canopy. And in fact, Allah even said that towards the end and on the end of the world, right, it will torn apart, to be torn apart, as if you are under a big tent and the tent is stripped and torn off and all the stars will fall down. How is it raised up? How is it there? For those who are, well, they don't see it as material, because we learn that the universe is empty space. But then, despite being in empty space, we need to realize that there is a lot of movement in the universe, right? Look up in the sky, we see the stars moving. We don't know where the stars are right now, because what we see is what is like thousands of years ago. Light years, light years are years. 1 light year, and 1 light year is the time taken for light to travel in the distance traveled by light in a year. All right, so it's going to be a very long time, right? Because light travels at 300 million meters per second. 300 million meters per second, which means 300,000 kilometers per second. So it's very long distance. So what we see is it has moved already. Okay, this is what we have learned, right? But imagine yourself being in the desert in the olden days and getting this message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the sky, you see it. Allah always mentioned about the skies not having pillars to support it. Yet, and we are amazed at the number of stars and planets, right, in the sky. We could differentiate the stars from the planets, because the stars twinkle, whereas the planets do not twinkle. Who placed it so high without pillars to support it? Who scattered those innumerable stars? Who endowed it with its beauty and inspiration? So these are points of reflection. How it's done? We know. Now, whatever we discover, we don't know how exact it is. Some of them are theories still, theoretical stages, right? And nothing concrete. The listener certainly did not lift it up, and it could not have been lifted by itself. So Allah has placed the sky in such a high place for us to enjoy and contemplate about the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Power is responsible for his creation and erection, and intelligent though is enough. Intelligent thought is enough to indicate him. So those who think through, they have to realize, come to conclusion that there is definitely a creator out there who is Aziz, who is Alim. Azizun Alim, right? Why is Aziz? He has the might to do all these things, the powers to do all these things, and his power is cherished, and it is all-knowing. He knows how to place where the stars are and where the sky, where the planets are, and everything is amazing. وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ. And as the night spreads its wings, the sky shows its sparkling stars and makes its friendly whispers. At sunrise, the sky comes alive again and becomes, we saw that. Good deal of reflection. All right. You did that. Sorry. Repeated. وَإِلَى الْجِبَالِ كَيْفَ نُصِبَتْ. And look at the mountains. Beautiful, powerful mountains. How it is firmly fixed. نُصِبَتْ. And the mountains, how they are firmly fixed. Look at the mountains. They're from the sky. Go down to the mountains. It's very amazing that Allah actually just moved first with the camel. Very small entity in the whole of the universe. And from the camel, you look up into the sky and you see the great wonders of the sky. And you go down back to earth and you see the mountains. They are firmly fixed. They are packed onto the earth. وَإِلَى الْجِبَالِ كَيْفَ نُصِبَتْ. Nusib, packed into the ground, outward, elevated, and apparent due to the mountains being in and out of the ground. Right? It is fixed onto the ground, and we are told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that fixing of the mountain prevents the great shaking of the earth. The term nasabat is placed on nasab, which means to place. Is based on nasab, which means to place, fix, erect. And it may touch on the conditions of the creation of the nasaba, also means wobbly and wavering. So it's firm now, but it will wobble on the day of judgment. So the Mufassirin actually saw one word, but used in two senses, right? Or initially, it's going to be firm right now, but eventually it will wobble and waver. As we know in Surah Qari'ah, we are told that the mountains, and the mountains, they will become powdered. Say, وَتَكُونُ الْجِبَالُ كَالْأَحْنِ الْمَنْفُوشِ, like cotton wool. I mean, it's broken into pieces and floating all over the place. As you look, you're reminded how it will be destroyed one day. So the word nusibat has a sense that's strong now, or one day it's going to come. Because the other verse of the Quran has mentioned that the mountains will just break up into pieces. For the Arab in particular, a mountain is a refuge and a friend. In general, it always looks majestic and awesome. Next to a mountain, a man appears small and humble. It is natural for a man on a mountain to think of Allah and feel himself close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He feels a distinct detachment from the petty concerns of this whole worldly life. So people go to the mountains to reflect on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We know, went to the mountains, Jabal Nur, and he went to Gar Hira, right, the cave of Hira, to Gar Hira, to contemplate. And when those who have gone to that place, right, it's beautiful. It is from that point, he actually there's like a window of where you can actually look out and see the Kaaba in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is attached to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but of course, with the many idols around it, it really makes you sad to see the corruption of the pollution of the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was neither a vain whim nor a coincidence that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam should go to the cave on Mount Hira for periods of worship and contemplation before he was given Allah's message. And if you come in, we used to be able to, as we enter Mecca, we can see Jabal Nur, very oddly shaped, single mountain, right? Quite distinct. But now we end up looking at the clock tower. Sign of the days, end of the world. It is also not surprising that those who want to spend a period in self-purification should seek to do so on a mountain. People do go for contemplations on mountains. And we have Nabi Musa alayhi salam meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the mountain. The reference here to the mountain speaks of them being hoisted because this fits in perfectly with the image portrayed. It's up and fixed. وَإِلَى الْأَرْضِ كَيْفَ سُطِحَتْ. And then now look at the earth. وَإِلَى الْأَرْضِ, and towards the earth. كَيْفَ, how, سُطِحَتْ, it is spread out. And the earth, how it made a vast expanse. You see a very different way being used, but it's all the same meaning as huge earth, flat out, spread out. You know, the earth itself is really, really huge. If you just sit and look at the horizon, it's just so amazing. In the desert, especially when you look at the horizon, you can see it. But of course, when you in Singapore, we can't see that kind of expanse of the earth and huge spreading out of the earth. The desert, you see so flat. If it's a flat desert, of course, if you have dunes everywhere, mountains, it's quite difficult to actually see the horizon. وَإِلَى الْأَرْضِ كَيْفَ سُطِحَتْ. Sutihat, flattened and made vast. Sataha, right, is used for the ceiling of a house by its roof. The earth is a roof when we are in our graves. Reiterating idea of ghashiyah. So two meanings of sataha, right? So the use of the words causes reflections, causes different senses, right? As one say, you look at it as a big, huge expanse. Another one as a roof over you. That means you're in the grave, dark grave, and the earth is above you. The earth is obviously outstretched and made suitable for human life and its full and varied range of activities. Man could not have made it so, as its creation was completed long before his existence. So should not man consider who spread out the earth and made life feasible on it? Intelligent reflection on all these aspects will always inspire minds and excite souls into recognition of Allah, the Creator. All this Allah brings us from the camel to the sky, to the mountains, and finally to the earth. All these are great creations, amazing creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which men cannot fathom. Arabs traveled from place to place. Those trips were made on camels when they were traveling in the frightful, lonely deserts, when there was no habitant to talk with and nothing to look at or listen to. They would contemplate on the wonderful camel, the only animal they were riding on. The sky, the only vault they could see high above them, the mountains they had on their right and left, and the earth, their only companion when they looked down. Contemplating about them takes man to the thought of their Creator and causes him to be grateful, thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This contemplation is his beginning step towards the knowledge of one God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The sequence of the discourse is also very unique here. Combines both ascending and descending order sequences. The purpose we have indicated above is to direct one's attention to some prominent signs so that the stubborn are left with no excuse. Thus, the most conspicuous of things in close proximity is the camel, whose benefits no one among the addresses could have denied. After this, attention is directed to the sky, and then when it was to be directed to the earth, since mountains lie in between, attention was focused on them first. And then, after the mountains, focusing attention to the outstretched earth creates a natural attraction, a natural wonder, a natural amazement in it. Two of the signs, the camel and the earth, are prominent with regard to providence, and two others, the sky and the mountains, are prominent with regard to Allah's power and wisdom. The camel is the source of sustenance. The earth is the source of sustenance. The sky and the mountains, source of power and greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On these attributes of the Creator rests the philosophy of the hereafter and the reward and punishment one will encounter in it. Knowing this, looking at this, makes us realize that Allah does not create all of this in play. It is created for a purpose. Now, purpose is to be a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah has sent messengers to us to tell us what we should do on earth. We have alluded to these aspects at various places in the stuffs. Right. So that's about the ayahs around us for us to contemplate and realize the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبْلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ وَإِلَى الْجِبَالِ كَيْفَ نُصِبَتْ وَإِلَى الْأَرْضِ كَيْفَ سُطِحَتْ. All right, we did this word just now actually, be musaytir, with a controller. And iyabahum, they are written. It's the last section. We'll see if we can finish today or not. All right. And we did that word also, iyabahum, they are written. Fadhakir, fa is then dhakir, it's an instruction, fi'il amar, remind, from the dhikar, dhakara, to remember, to recall. Innama, only that, anta, you, mudhakir, a reminder. Mudhakir, a reminder. Fadhakir, innama anta mudhakir. Therefore, do remind, for you are only a reminder. Only that you are a reminder. Fadhakir, innama anta mudhakir. So this is an instruction to one person. Of course, the first one to be instructed would be Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then it goes on to us. Right, being told to remind, our job is to remind, and that's it, just remind. Fadhakir innama anta mudhakir. That's the Prophet ﷺ should continue to preach and remind them, irrespective of the consequences, and rest assured his responsibility is only to preach and remind people. As you recall, this is very much to last 2 years. where things are very difficult, people have, there's no hope of the Meccans converting anymore. All that has converted, all that have converted. As we are aware, Rasulullah was placed in Mecca because Mecca is a center of pilgrimage. So those who come for pilgrimage, they are the ones who are being converted. And as we are aware, the people of Medina, Yathrib, a number of them has converted, and Rasulullah has sent his Sahaba, Mu'adh, if I'm not wrong, to teach them Islam in Medina. He is supposed to, Allah reminds him again, go on reminding. Just that is your job, just remind. It is not his responsibility. He should necessarily be able to make them accept the faith, because his job is to remind. Allah has sent him to remind people, and he will not be responsible if his addressees do not embrace faith. Lasta alayhim bimusaytir. Lasta, not you. Lasta, laisa, but it's the ta. It emphasizes that you. And laisa is just not. But lasta, not you. The ta is the anta. Okay, lasta. It becomes like a verb structure. Alayhim, lasta, not you, on them, bimusaytir, a controller. From what satar, you have satar is to rule, right? So to control, of a controller. You are not a watcher over them. So the translation says watcher, right? But basically one who controls, or means you direct them around, right? The term musaytir comes from satar, a line or of a book or writing. That means a person who arranges the lines of a book, or one who has absolute authority over a thing or a person and writes down its manner of action, monitors him, or makes him do something by force. So that's the musaytir. Come the word satara, to line, to arrange, to organize, to dictate, and everything is in the word musaytir. So Allah is reminding Rasulullah, your job is not to arrange their life, right? To ensure they behave in a certain manner. It's not your job. You just remind them. They are supposed to be reminded, and then they will follow accordingly. Yes, they might go in line, but that is not your job, right? You are not over them a controller. So Ali says you are not one to manage men's affairs. You do not have full control over them. You are not a dictator over them. So various translations to describe the word musaytir. Just now we saw you are not a watcher over them, right? So Allah's messenger is worried about his people, that he wants good for them. Definitely, he was given this beautiful message, and he knew for sure he was a prophet of Allah. And he gets worried for them that if they don't abide by his instruction, they would go to hellfire. That is why the first thing that he told them when he was instructed to bring the message to the masses was that there is one God and there is a next world. Next world is very critical for them to know, right? And their problem is that they can't accept the one God and they can't accept the next. But Allah is telling him, you can't force them to believe. You have no control over their hearts, and you cannot compel them to adopt the faith. Men's hearts are in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the merciful. Jihad, which means striving for Allah's cause, and which was later made a duty of the Prophet ﷺ, and all Muslims did not aim at converting people to Islam by force. Its only aim was to remove all hindrances in the way of the Islamic message so that it could be delivered freely and people would not be prevented from listening to it or be persecuted for doing so. So it is to ensure that people are allowed to believe in the message and not forced against it. That is why there was jihad against the Quraysh, because the Quraysh were not happy that people are turning to Islam, and they find ways and means to stop the spread of Islam. This is the role of the Prophet ﷺ can fulfill, to remove the obstacles which prevent him from delivering his message. The idea that Rasulullah's mission is confined to reminding people and delivering Allah's message is often repeated and stressed in the Quran. Your job is only a reminder. You are a warner. You are a bringer of good news. That's it. Stop there. You cannot guide. You can guide people, but you cannot make them believe. There are several reasons for this emphasis, the first of which is to relieve the Prophet ﷺ of the heavy burden of directing the course of the Islamic message once he has conveyed it. Very difficult if he is going to ensure that they accept the message. So he just told, your job is only to pass the message. He must leave it to Allah to decide its course. The urgency of the human yearning to win the victory for the truth and to get people to benefit from his absolute goodness is so keen that such repetition is required to make the advocates of this message distinguish their own desires and ambitions from their mission. So that is what we really want the victory to truth to be victorious. We want people to become good Muslims. We want everybody to embrace Islam. And we saw so much good in it because we have experienced it and we know that it is the truth. We repeat it again and again. The people who are advocates of the message, that means the da'i, the people who goes out there to do missionary work or to advise. It doesn't have to be do missionary work among your family members, advise again and again and again. But you have to distinguish between your desire that they convert and what actually is your mission. Your mission is going to remind or to make clear. When this distinction is clear, they proceed in fulfillment of their duty, regardless of the response and consequence. It's the effort that matters, not the results of the efforts. Thus, advocates of Islam do not worry themselves over who has accepted the faith and who has not. They are not charged with this burden, which becomes particularly heavy at times of adversity, when the favorable response becomes a rarity and enemies abound, especially in Mecca during that time where things are very, very difficult. Illa man tawalla wa kafar, except man, one, tawalla, he turned and he disbelieved. But whoever turns back and disbelieves, Allah focus on one group of people, they turn away from the message and disbelieve. Before the particle of exception, illa, a truncation of some words has occurred, which can be determined from the context. When these suppressed words are unfolded, the whole discourse would be something to the effect, those who are blessed with urge for guidance will benefit from your message. As for those who turned away and deny, the Almighty will gravely punish them. So there's a lot of it's implied here. Right, that is the meaning of this. Those, you can remind those who are good, but those who turn away, you can't remind them. Actually, they are not easily reminded. Thus, the delivery of the message is the limit of the Prophet's task. It's not the end of the matter. The disbelievers are not to be left alone. They cannot deny Allah and be safe. All right, we're going to stop here and continue in the next lesson. We've got a few more verses only. I think another, 3 more verses, but time doesn't permit us. Inshallah, we'll continue in the next lesson. Allahumma arhamna bil Quran waj'alhu lana imaman wa nuran wa hudan wa rahmah. Allahumma dhakkirna minhu ma nasina wa 'allimna minhu ma jahilna warzuqna tilawatahu ana al-layli wa atrafan nahar waj'alhu lana hujjatan ya rabbal alamin. Allahumma astaudi'uka ma 'allamtani fardudhu ilayya waqta hajati ilayhi فلا تنسينيه يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا، ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا، ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابات لنا في ديننا مع أهل القطر أنثى وذكر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.